Trump administration's 100% tariff on some imported drugs is on hold, at least for now. They were supposed to take effect last week. White House officials say they are taking their time to negotiate deals with drug makers.
Our medical expert, Dr. Payal Kohli, is with us this afternoon to discuss this proposal. Let's start with what drugs these 100% tariffs could apply to.
Yeah, so if you think about it, it's a proposal to put a tariff on every single brand name drug that is not manufactured here in the United States. Now, thankfully, most of our drug market is generic drugs, so about 90% generic, 10% brand name. But you can imagine those brand name drugs, which are already so expensive, you start to put a 100% tariff, you double the price of the drug, essentially, could have real impacts on patients.
Well, let's talk about patients in general here in Colorado, how they'll be affected. Do you know what types, rather than saying what types of drugs, because I can't even pronounce half of the, the drugs on the market, what type of disorders or diseases or things that people deal with on a daily basis will be impacted here?
Well, my biggest concern, Sam, is really the cancers. So we know a lot of cancer drugs are made in other countries, like India and China, some in Ireland, and these are blood and lung cancers. And, if they impose a big tariff on cancer drugs or they change the manufacturing of cancer drugs, could that potentially create a shortage for those patients struggling with cancer? Now, even drugs like Botox, for example, are 100% made abroad. So Botox is manufactured in Ireland.
Oh, no.
And yes, of course, Botox has some non-cosmetic uses as well, like migraines and such, but that could significantly be impacted too. And then the question really becomes, well, okay, if they're imposing a tariff on the drug companies, the drug company going to eat that cost? Probably not. Is the insurance company going to eat that cost? Probably not. Or are they going to pass it along to the patient? And that's my biggest fear, is that they will then kick it down the road.
And you were talking about the price tag of some of these drugs. It's already pretty high.
Yes, they're already pretty high. And so you think about it, the goal is to actually make the drugs more affordable. And by moving the manufacturing to the United States, we're talking about a pricey proposition to shift your manufacturing facility. So firstly, it takes 2 to 5 years to set up a manufacturing plant. Second, making a drug in the U.S. might be significantly more costly than making it abroad and importing it in. So that's probably going to increase the price of the drug as well. And what a lot of drug companies do is they actually use the brand name drugs to subsidize the manufacture of the generic drugs. So generic drugs are cheap, right? They're non-branded. There's not a big margin on those. So the drug companies use the money they make from the branded drug to make sure they keep the generic drugs going as well. But if you start making it so the drug company has less profit on the brand names, are they going to start cutting back the supply of the generics?
Yikes. Okay, so a lot of alarming things being stated. Have you had patients discuss any of this with you? Is this kind of trickling down now to people saying, Dr. Kohli, is my prescription going to get more expensive?
Very much. In fact, people in the newsroom came up to me and brought this up as well. So
of course we did.
Yeah.
People are
take advantage of Dr. Kohli.
People are worried, and understandably so. And of course, there's initiatives like Trump RX, which are trying to make brand name drugs more affordable. That's like an online cash pay direct to consumer pharmacy that allows you to purchase brand name drugs. But I don't know that that's necessarily going to help, because it's really for people who don't have insurance, because it doesn't get applied towards your insurance and it's a cash price. So it's still a big problem. I'm not sure this is the solution to it, but I'm curious to see how it starts to play out. I'm also curious if somebody partially moves their manufacturing here, like Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are planning to do for the weight loss drugs, would that count as an exception? And will they allow them, just because there's so many people impacted by weight loss drugs, to have them at a more affordable price?
Yeah, lots of questions. One note here, the MMR vaccine is being kind of separated out by the CDC. Could you talk about that and what that means?
This was a huge, alarming announcement to the medical community, and it came essentially on social media, where the acting director of the CDC said it's now time to separate out the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, which have been given together since 1971 with no adverse reactions at all. Now, if you recall, this is a 2-series vaccine, so you get 2 doses. So the implication of separating it out would be going from 2 shots to 6 shots, to having to take your child into the doctor 6 times to get each of those viruses individually, vaccines against the viruses individually, twice. And so not only do I think that that's going to reduce people going in and doing it, I don't think there's any scientific evidence to date to suggest that it's either safer or more efficacious to do that. So it's come as a bit of a surprise to us. It's not clear whether they'll act on that, but that was the announcement that was made on social media.
Yeah, I just think about how difficult it is for working parents, or just parents in general, to take their children to the doctor.
Right.
So these are all Very alarming.
And there's already so much concern for a young child getting any vaccine.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting to talk about telling your kid, hey, you used to have to get 2, now you have to get 6.
Yeah, how many pokes? My kids always ask me, Mom,
Yeah,
how many pokes am I going to get?
And then we have all the other ones we haven't talked about, hepatitis and all of those others. So I really do think separating them is a mistake.
Okay.
And I don't think there's any scientific reason to do so.
Well, we will certainly have you back to discuss those findings when we know a little bit more about it. Dr. Coley, thanks as always.